This question may arise in the mind of a verification engineer that we have so many different programming languages and verification methodologies. How do these affect the verification process, and what part of it remains same and what changes? And this is important for us to understand because we can focus on what remains same and gain the depth over there. So in order to find out the answer, let's first understand the process of verification. So process of verification in nutshell consists of these three phases. So there is a verification planning phase where we translate the requirement specification into verification requirements. And in a simple words, verification requirements are made up of your test plan, checks plan, and coverage plan. And using those three plans, you come up with a test bench architecture, and you then come up with the estimates to implement that particular test bench architecture. So that is your verification planning. And once you have done that, you move to test bench development. And in very simple words, in test bench development, you are writing programs to create different stimulus from your test plan, and you are doing response checking from your design. So that is all that you are really doing in the part of the test bench development. And once you have created the stimulus and checks for all the features, then you are putting them together to make sure that one doesn't affect the another and all of them remain operational as a part of your regression and debug phase. And depending on the quality requirements of your project, there are different kind of criteria that are defined. And once they are met through your regression and debug phase, the verification concludes. So this is a very simple definition of your verification process. Now, let's see how this changes if I have to execute this using a Verilog, for example. Now, Verilog, for example, doesn't have a built-in randomization. So when I execute the entire process of verification using Verilog, I might rely on more directed cases rather than the random test cases. Now, if I were to execute the same verification process with a system Verilog, due to built-in randomization and the coverage support, I might end up using more random tests and fewer directed tests. Now, it doesn't mean that I cannot do full-fledged random test bench implementation using only Verilog. But what happens is the complexity to do that becomes much more, wherein it justifies that you better do it with the system Verilog. Now, if I were to execute this process of verification for only one IP and that IP doesn't is not expected to undergo a lot of changes, I don't even really need to go with a verification methodology. But if I need to execute the process of verification for multiple design IPs, multiple SOCs executed as a projects and which are undergoing very frequent changes, I have a lot of maintenance overhead, then I have to use a verification methodology. And the way verification methodology affects the process of verification is it brings in a component of reuse. And now we have to think during the planning phase that what can we reuse from like both the horizontal as well as vertically, what can we reuse? And that reuse affects how we architect our test bench, and that reuse affects how we do the debug. For example, what you are reusing, you don't have to focus when something fails because it's unlikely that the reuse component will have a failure. So you want to focus on the newer or the changing component. So this way it affects how you view your regression and debug. So the process of verification remains same in principle, but what you try to do is the language and the methodology that you are using, you use that to influence the process to optimize it so that you can exploit the capabilities or the additional features being provided by your language and methodology. And that you can see it in the action that not only we are using specialized HDLs for doing verification. Today, we are able to use modern general purpose programming languages like Python also for doing the verification. So I hope this gives you some clarity. Uh, if you have any questions, you can put it in the comments. Thank you for listening.